Imagine looking into the eyes of the person who stole your sister's life. No glass barrier, no courtroom distance, just you and the monster. Before we dive in, please take a moment to hit that subscribe button. Every click helps us uncover the truth behind the darkest stories and gives voice to the silenced. Let's reach 1,000 subscribers together. Thank you for being here. Less than 24 hours after delivering a victim impact statement that shook the courtroom, Olivia, the sister of Kaylee Goncalves, sat down to talk. Not with a script, not with a media filter, just raw emotion, truth, and the unbearable weight of facing the man accused of destroying her world. She looked him in the eye, and what she saw wasn't human. It wasn't fear, she said. It was something primal. My body wanted to run. My instincts screamed that I was face to face with something I didn't recognize. Not man, not animal. Something alien. Olivia hadn't planned it that way. Her speech was rewritten, literally, in the pews of the courtroom, moments before she stood up. The statement she prepared felt hollow next to the raw emotion of her father's. She doubted herself, questioned every word, until her father moved the podium, an act of unfiltered defiance, an act that shifted the energy in the room. That moment gave her wings. I felt him saying, "Go, say what you came to say," and I did. But this wasn't just a speech, it was a reckoning. When Olivia stood before Bryan Kohberger, locking eyes with him, she didn't see a man. She saw rage, blankness, a void where humanity should live. It felt like staring into the eyes of the Moonlight Man, she said. There was no soul, no remorse, no human capacity, and that stare, it never let go. Even when she turned toward the judge, she could feel Kohberger's gaze burning into her. It wasn't intimidation, it was fury. Pure, raw fury. This guy was pissed. I could feel it. His silence wasn't peace, it was seething anger, like a caged beast. But Olivia didn't back down. She took back the power. She demanded eye contact. She told him, "Sit up straight when I talk to you." Some might call it cheesy. She called it her power moment. And it was. Because in a room where so much had been taken, she stood tall, not just for herself, but for Kaylee, for Maddie, for Xana, for Ethan. This speech wasn't for them, it was to them, Olivia said. If they were alive to hear it, I believe it would have rung true. And she didn't stop there. She wanted her words to hit their mark. She had studied Kohberger, dug into every trace of his online footprint, from a Quora account where he answered questions with eerie confidence, to a Spotify history, to old forum posts. She collected data not just to understand him, but to dismantle him. I wasn't trying to be a psychologist, I was trying to dismantle an ego, to hit every weak point I could find. Even now, Olivia believes the real story isn't just about what happened, it's about why. And the terrifying truth? That answer may never come. There's no motive they can point to, no smoking gun, just endless questions. But even the silence says something. Court records show Kohberger stalked the house 23 times. His phone placed him there over and over. He used VPNs, wiped devices, but then made clumsy mistakes, buying the weapon with a gift card traced to his parents' Amazon account, Googling how to delete his purchase history. Not on a VPN. It's bizarre, Olivia said. Some parts of his cover-up were methodical, others just stupid. And yet this isn't about Kohberger, not anymore. It's about reclaiming the narrative. Reclaiming the names. They have names, Olivia said. Kaylee Goncalves, Madison Mogan, Xana Kernodle, Ethan Chapin. Say them. Don't let them be overshadowed by him. She wants people to remember them not as victims, but as lights, as voices, as examples of how to live unapologetically and fiercely. If Kaylee were here, she'd want people to stand up for themselves, speak their truth, even in the smallest ways. Stand up to your bully, be authentically you. The night after sentencing, Olivia and her family didn't retreat into grief. They shared laughter, pride. Normally we cry, but that night, we felt peace, we felt proud, and we felt done. Done with being silent, done with being powerless, done with giving attention to the monster. And what Olivia said last will stick with you. There's a difference between facing your monster and understanding it. And Olivia Goncalves wasn't content with just standing her ground. She wanted to understand what made that monster move. The day after the sentencing, most would try to forget, to move on. But Olivia did the opposite. She dove headfirst into the darkness. She had questions, dozens of them, and none had clear answers. But instead of waiting for them to arrive, she went looking, digging, asking the questions no one else dared to ask, because the truth isn't always handed to you. Sometimes you have to go to war for it. The first clue, the digital trail of a ghost. Bryan Kohberger tried to vanish into the digital shadows. He used VPNs, virtual private networks, to hide his location. He erased browser histories, he even wiped devices. But even the smartest criminals leave fingerprints. Not physical ones, but behavioral ones. Olivia found what little was available. A few haunting responses on Quora, cold, calculated, emotionless. He didn't ask questions, he only answered them. Always from a place of superiority. Always trying to sound like he was in control. There were no social media rants, no Reddit threads, but there was a pattern. He was hiding in plain sight, Olivia explained. He wanted to disappear, but not completely. There were traces, old forum accounts, a Spotify playlist, the kind of mundane digital footprint we all leave, except his was unsettling. Detached, clinical. The playlist wasn't emotional, it wasn't even expressive. It was hollow. The second clue, what he bought and how he bought it. Shortly before the murders, Kohberger made a purchase. A $120 Visa gift card, no big deal, right? Except what followed was chilling. He used that card to buy the K-bar knife, the weapon that would later be linked to the crime scene. He also bought a sharpener and vegan supplements. But the twist? He bought the gift card, using his debit card. That meant the purchase was traceable from the very start. Then he used that gift card on his parents' Amazon account. That alone tied the weapon to him, without a single drop of blood or strand of DNA. It was so stupid it scared me, Olivia said. Because if he made that mistake, what else did he do wrong? And what does that say about how much worse it could have been? Kohberger even Googled how to delete his Amazon purchase history. And he didn't use a VPN for that. A man trying to be a ghost, tripping over his own arrogance. The third clue, the autopsy that changed everything. The Monday before sentencing, Olivia and her family received something they had waited nearly a year for. Kaylee's autopsy. Until then, all they had was the death certificate and a scribbled note from a brief phone call with the coroner. That was it. That was all they knew about how their daughter, their sister, had died. I had written down what I could on a piece of paper, Olivia recalled. We never really knew the full truth. Not until that Monday. The contents were devastating, not just in the detail, but in what they revealed about Kaylee's fight. She hadn't gone quietly. She had fought. Hard. That hit me harder than anything, Olivia said. Knowing how hard she fought, how much pain she must have been in. That broke me. And with the truth came clarity, but also more questions. The fourth clue, the 23 visits. The digital evidence revealed something that couldn't be ignored. Bryan Kohberger's phone had pinged near the victim's house 23 times. 23. Not once, not a random drive-by, not even just a pattern. It was stalking, Olivia said bluntly. That's what it was. He had no reason to be in that neighborhood. None. And then the final night, he drove past the house at least 3 times before stopping. He didn't live there. He didn't know anyone there. Yet he was there, again and again. The only explanation left? He was watching. He was studying. He was planning. Everyone wants to know why. Why those 4 students? Why that house? Why that night? But even now, there's no solid answer. Not legally, not emotionally. They say they don't know, Olivia said. And maybe they never will. But sometimes the absence of an answer tells you everything. The investigators were clear. They didn't want to speculate. They didn't want to give theories without evidence. But Olivia didn't need a court to tell her what she already knew. He knew them. Maybe just one, maybe all of them, maybe only through Instagram. But this wasn't random. And that's where the horror deepens. Because if it wasn't random, then it was personal, and that makes it worse. After Kohberger's arrest, dozens of tips came in. Some about his behavior, some from people who'd known him. Others were fragments, pieces of a larger puzzle. He had problems with women. He was cold, detached, controlling, but nothing big enough to act on. Nothing big enough to prevent what happened. And maybe that's the most terrifying clue of all. He wanted to make this seem random, Olivia said. He wanted to confuse the trail, but nothing about this was random. From the social media tracking, to the planned cover-up, to the items he purchased and the silence he kept afterward, it was never random. It was intentional. It was evil. And it almost worked. When a courtroom empties and the cameras go dark, grief doesn't go away. it follows you home. But that night, something was different. The sentencing was over. The courtroom had cleared. And for the first time in over a year, Olivia and her family weren't preparing for another court date. They weren't chasing paperwork, sitting through press conferences, or bracing themselves for the next blow. They went back to their Airbnb that night. But instead of weeping on the floor or reliving the pain in a loop, as they often had before, something surprising happened. We laughed, Olivia said softly. We were proud, and for the first time, we felt peace. That might sound strange, but this wasn't a celebration. This was relief. Throughout the entire legal process, the Goncalves family had to fight to be heard. They fought for access to information. They fought for the media to say the victims' names. They fought for their own space to grieve while living under the weight of national attention. But now, that battle, at least the courtroom part of it, was over. It felt like we laid all our cards on the table, Olivia explained. We had no regrets about holding back, and somehow that lifted something. No more courtroom dates circled in red on the calendar, no more legal strategies whispered in hallway corners, just quiet. And in that quiet came something unexpected: strength. Normally we cry, we break, we go home and fall apart, Olivia said. But not this time. That night, the family stayed up late, talking, laughing, sitting in the peace that comes when you know you've done everything you possibly could. There were no sad silences, no guilt, no regrets, just presence. A united front, a family that had stood tall and refused to let their grief be reduced to a courtroom footnote. It was weird to say it, but it was a good night, Olivia said. A really good night. In the courtroom, Olivia had spoken directly to Bryan Kohberger. She had stood just feet from him, staring into what she described as a void, a thing without humanity. But her words weren't just for him. They were for Kaylee, for Maddie, for every victim whose name has been lost beneath the name of the accused. This story has always been told around him, his face, his actions, Olivia said. But that night, we made it about them. And the impact was immediate. People reached out from across the country. Survivors, families of other victims, complete strangers. They didn't just hear Olivia's words, they felt them. Because what she said wasn't a speech, it was a promise. The next morning, Olivia sat quietly and tried to process everything that had happened. No more rewriting speeches in a church pew. No more wondering if she'd said enough or too much or the wrong thing. Just the silence that follows after you've survived the unthinkable. It's not over, she said, but that chapter is, and I can finally breathe. Her focus now? Living. Not just surviving, but really, truly living. I want to live for them, Olivia said. For Kaylee, for Maddie, for Xana, for Ethan. I want to live in a way they'd be proud of. That means being present for her husband, her children, herself. It means doing things that aren't about the trial or the investigation or the pain. It means finding joy again, even if it feels foreign. And make no mistake, Olivia has been a rock for her family, supporting her father, uplifting her siblings, carrying the emotional weight of a nation following their every move. But she also had to fight herself. Some days, I didn't want to get out of bed, she confessed. Other days, I was the strong one, helping everyone else. You never really know what kind of day it's going to be. Through all of it, she kept one thing close: her sister's memories. Their kindness, their joy, their authenticity. They were so confidently themselves, she said. And if I can live that way, even a little, that's how I honor them. What comes next? So what now? The trial may be over, but the journey isn't. There's still grief, there's still questions. And there's still the task of living a life with a gaping hole that will never quite close. But for the first time, Olivia sees a path forward. I don't know what's next. I just know it's not what yesterday was. And that's enough for now. She's giving herself permission to focus on the future, to take that pain and reshape it into something powerful, to help others find their voice, to build something meaningful out of the ruins, and most importantly, to never ever stop saying their names. Kaylee, Maddie, Xana, Ethan, say their names, tell their stories. They deserve that. Not just today, always. Justice is never clean. It's not a straight line. Sometimes it feels like a sentence, sometimes a scar. But for Olivia and her family, it was never about punishment, it was about peace. The gavel came down, the courtroom emptied, and the world asked, is justice served? Olivia isn't sure how to answer that, Not completely, because justice for her will never be found in a prison cell. Not when her sister's room is still empty. Not when holidays come and Kaylee's laughter is missing. Not when she still hears the echoes of what should have been. There's no such thing as full justice, Olivia said. There's only what you can live with. And what she can live with is the truth. The why has never come. Not clearly. There's no manifesto, no confession, no twisted letter left behind. Bryan Kohberger has offered nothing but silence. He declined to speak at sentencing, declined to show emotion, declined to be human. And that silence, it screams louder than any excuse ever could. He wants to control the narrative, Olivia said. He always has, even now. Even in silence, it's a power move. But it doesn't matter anymore, because the family is done chasing answers they'll never get. They're done begging the world to focus on the victims instead of the accused. They're done letting him own the story. Now they write their own. For Olivia, healing doesn't look like forgetting. It looks like honoring, telling the world who Kaylee was, what Maddie meant, how Xana laughed, how Ethan loved. They weren't headlines. They were whole people. And while the world will always remember the horror of that night, Olivia wants them to remember the light that came before it. They lived boldly, fully. That's what I want people to remember. In the days after sentencing, Olivia has been flooded with messages from survivors of abuse, from families who lost loved ones to violence, from young people finding the courage to speak up. Her words gave them strength, her presence gave them power, and her bravery gave them permission to be loud. If my pain helps someone else stand up, then that's part of their legacy too, Olivia said. They're still changing the world, even now. And that's the most powerful justice of all. Not a verdict, not a prison sentence, but impact. Kaylee, Maddie, Xana, and Ethan live on, in every life they continue to touch, in every story told in their name, in every act of courage sparked by their memory. So what happens now? The trial is over, the facts are laid bare, the silence of the killer remains. But this family, they're not broken. They're building something stronger. They're speaking louder. They're remembering every day. We'll never stop saying their names, Olivia said. That's not just a promise. That's who we are now. This isn't the end of a story. It's the beginning of something sacred. A vow, a mission, a memory kept alive by love, not fear, and by the strength of a sister who refused to look away when the world needed her the most. Thank you for walking with us through this heartbreaking journey. If this story touched you, if Olivia's strength moved you, if these victims deserve to be remembered, not as statistics but as souls, please subscribe. Help us reach 1,000 subscribers so we can continue telling the stories that matter with dignity, truth, and honor. Kaylee, Maddie, Xana, Ethan, we see you. We remember you. We speak your names.